Trucker Dump for August 3rd, 2011, Episode 72, Big Rig MacGyvering.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Howdy, folks. Hope you brought your duct tape and paper clips today. We'll be making a sailboat. Todd McCann here. After my last Blabathon podcast, I decided to go light on you today. Today's podcast is called Big Rig MacGyvering. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then you can just go on with your crooked baseball caps, your bone-jarring hip-hop, and your bling-bling. Or whatever the heck kids call it nowadays. And while you're at it, pull up your freaking pants. The Evil Overlord and I have driven quite a few different trucks in our driving careers, but I've been through more than my fair share of trucks recently. It all started with Hell Week 2, the sequel, and continued with my most recent truck crapping out on me last week. There'll be a link in the show notes to Hell Week 2. I've also owned quite a few personal vehicles in my life, but I've never had the same assortment of sounds from them that I've experienced in the cab of the big rig, and that's where we truckers excel in our MacGyvering skills. Every truck has its share of squeaks, clicks, and creaks. The trick is finding them, and many of those sounds only happen when you're driving down the road. But finding them is of utmost importance because listening to a continuous squeak will eventually cause you to yank out fistfuls of hair. Now, I kind of like my faux hawk, but I've got no desire to have a real mohawk. I'll leave that to the punker dudes. I feel sorry for solo drivers when it comes to squeak hunting because it's rough to track down a noise that only happens when you're scooting down the road. That's where team drivers have a distinct advantage because one person can hunt down the noise while the other drives. This is especially important because as a team driver, one of you is always trying to sleep. Hearing even the slightest persistent noise when you're trying to sleep is akin to buying a Ford Explorer. Let me explain that. You may never notice how many there are until you start driving one. All of a sudden, you see them everywhere. Likewise, once you hear a noise in a truck, you'll always notice it. You can try to ignore it, but it's completely impossible. You may as well face the fact that until you crawl your cranky butt out of bed and find the squeak, you're never going to get back to sleep. Once you figure out where the annoyance is coming from, it's time to whip out the trucker's MacGyver kit. Just as MacGyver can make a bomb out of a stick of juicy fruit and a cigarette lighter, a trucker can stop any noise with whatever is at hand. Duct tape, paper clips, toothpicks, bungee cords, paper towels, you name it. The Evil Overlord was the master MacGyverer. When a cabinet door rattled, a properly placed folded paper towel silenced it. If it was placed too high or too low on the door, the squeak persisted. Only when placed in one particular spot did the squeak quit driving us crazy. Other times, the canned goods in the cabinets would click together from the road vibration. That's when you're glad that the cashiers at Walmart think that each cup of ramen noodles deserves its own sack. All those extra plastic bags were perfect for shoving down between the cans. The Evil Overlord brought an extra towel from home to keep one of our coolers from rubbing up against the side of the cabinet. She's crammed everything from toothpicks to Q-tips to small pieces of cardboard in between the plastic moldings on the interior of the bunk or on the dashboard. Other times the MacGyvering falls to me. If the offending noise requires WD-40, duct tape, bungee cords, or tools, the Evil Overlord reluctantly sets me loose and stands clear. As a typical man, you really can't make me any more giddy than encouraging me to jury-rig something. There's just something about the smell of a fresh roll of duct tape and WD-40. I believe the truck designers have it out for us truckers when it comes to the drawers in these trucks. I've had problems with the drawers in more than half of our trucks. Either it squeaks like a frightened mouse or it won't stay closed. We've managed to fix the squeaks with strategically placed paper towels, but I've had to resort to bungee cords to keep the stinking thing closed at times. Naturally, if the noise is coming from the exterior of the truck and there's even the remotest chance of sweating, that's my job too. I've had to bungee the heck out of the catwalk, that's the walking platform behind the cab of the truck, to keep it from rattling. I've had to cram an old towel in between some load locks in the rear of the cab. I've had to pull over on the side of the road after the evil overlord grumpily woke me up with a pigtail, that's the electric cable between the truck and the trailer. It was thumping against the rear of the cab. I've even had to use a big piece of folded cardboard to keep the hood from squeaking. So if you ever need to locate and stop an annoying squeak, call a trucker. There are few things that a trucker can't rig when given a challenge. Now, if I could just figure out how to MacGyver a small bomb out of a stick of juicy fruit and a cigarette lighter, I'm sure I'd be up for Uncle of the Year.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Well, I've got to say, I'm a bit bummed. I was really expecting some good stuff on the Hell Week 2 podcast. I mean, asking a trucker to describe a bad week or a bad day, you'd think I'd have tons of people writing in. But no, everybody just left me hanging. How cool are you guys? Oh well. I did get a few comments though, so let's get on with the cool people who wrote in. Lisa Nowak says, if you didn't have weeks like this, how would you entertain the masses? I'm glad you survived. Frankly, I expected that when you went to open the hood of the truck, you were going to find that deer inside lying on the engine. I guess that would be one way to cook a venison steak. Well, oddly enough, Lisa, there was only a little bit of hair and the damage. No sign of blood. When I've hit deer in the past, there's almost always blood and guts on the truck somewhere. As for me entertaining the masses, I may have pushed that one a bit. 2,800 plus words is too frickin' long. I'm going to try and work on doing some shorter ones, like Big Rig MacGyvering. Thanks for dropping by with your comment, though. Old Friend says, I just spent 48 hours with high school kids in a camp setting that included a high ropes course outside in 105-degree weather and took 4 hours, and did not include air conditioning in the dining area or in the cabins. Yes, I was the one that booked the trip. Who thinks about asking if there's air conditioning in the year 2011? I did not have to go to hell now. Been there, done that. Whew. Well, Andrea, we have a new winner for Worst Hell Week, as if hanging out with high school kids wasn't enough by itself. FL Trucker's wife says, wow, that beats mine by a mile. And how ironic it is that I just mentioned today on Twitter about how much Chris's company caters to newbies, but could care less about current drivers. Makes no sense to me. But hey, they're happy their turnover is only 80%. Well, Casey, yeah, only in the trucking industry would a company be proud of an 80% turnover rate. I think companies pay special attention to their new drivers because turnover rate is typically higher among new hires. Of course, that just sucks for the drivers who's been there for a while. And lastly, the always snarky Ray Sunshine 77 says, if it wasn't for really bad weeks in this industry, how would you know when you had a good week? Well, Gene, I don't know, but I'd be glad to figure it out. Well, again, thanks for everybody who did write in. Guilt trip. And if you've ever wondered, I call some of these people by their names even though their username is different when they write in. Well, that's because I know them from Twitter. So if you'd just follow me on Twitter and we would talk, then I could call you by name too. So, here's how to do that. Well, trucker or not, I know you all have your own jury rigging stories. So let's hear them. Leave a comment so we can all learn new and exciting ways to use duct tape. Just go to abouttruckdriving.com, type Juicy Fruit into the handy-dandy search bar, that was designed by MacGyver himself, I might add, and tell us your rigging tips and tricks. You can also send your comments, suggestions, or questions to truckerdump@gmail.com. If you'd like me to know you by name, and why wouldn't you, give me a shout on Twitter where I'm @ToddMcCain. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. As always, I'd appreciate it if you'd write an iTunes review the next time you're there. But I'll still love you, even if you don't. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way.